Greetings and welcome to episode 5 of the Utopia Living Show. Today we're going to continue our wonderful conversation with Viktor Lee, artist and creative conduit, and we're going to continue to discuss springing into our passions through self-awareness. So as we get ready to begin, I love to start our segments off with a moment of gratitude, but also with something to just calibrate our mind into a very positive place as we go into our breathing exercise and thinking about some of the things we're grateful for. So in alignment with today's topic, self-awareness and springing into our passions, I'd like us to meditate on a scripture that I find to be very refreshing about the uniqueness of each of us. And I think that ties in very closely with being self-aware. And so it's actually 1 Corinthians 15:41, and it states, "The sun is glorious in one way, and the moon is glorious in another way, and the stars are glorious in their own distinctive way, as we are in our own distinctive way." But it continues to say, "For one star differs and surpasses another in its beauty and its brilliance." And I really hear God speaking to us and saying that He has created the stars, the sun, the moon, and although there are many stars, they're all distinctive in their own brilliant and beautiful way. So let us begin with our moment of gratitude. As we know, focusing on what we're grateful for is such an awesome and igniting way to just shift our mind and our thoughts from what may be causing us stress, anxiety, or heaviness into a place that's light and joyful and peaceful, and just thinking about the goodness and the richness of our lives. So, as usual, I'm going to spray a little bit of my Utopian Body Heavenly Aromatherapy, a beautiful blend of lavender and vanilla to create a nice, soothing, and relaxing environment. And we're going to take our nice deep breaths in. But before we begin, I just want us to learn how to focus on nice deep breaths, filling up the abdomen. And you can actually sit up straight and hold your abdomen so you can feel it filling up like a balloon, and then slowly exhaling. The longer you can breathe in and then slowly exhale out, the more you're releasing toxins, the more you're helping your mind and your organs to be oxygenated. And you also can even help to relieve and reduce your blood pressure. So there's lots of benefits. This can be done again at work, at home, when you're about to go into a presentation, and even in traffic, except for you want to make sure you're keeping your eyes open. So let us begin with our nice deep breaths in and thinking about something that you're grateful for. Maybe you want to even think about something that is distinctively unique to yourself and celebrate that in your thoughts. So let us begin. Nice deep breath in, filling up our abdomen. And slowly exhale. Another nice deep breath in. You can close your eyes. And slowly exhale. Let's add in a neck roll, stretching out our muscles. And we can go in the opposite circular direction. Since we tend to hold so much stress in our neck, we can add in some shoulder rolls. And one more deep breath in. And exhale. Well, hopefully that was beneficial. So Viktor, as we stand here in front of your beautiful work, I would love to hear a little bit about your journey of self-discovery and just really connection to all of your creative and artistic energy. How did this all begin or start to unfold?
I would have to say formally, recent graduate of Fisk University, and in my
Congrats.
Yes. In my third year, I took a voyage away from Fisk, and I attended Howard University. Took a painting class with Albert Smith at 9 a.m. on Tuesday and Thursday.
Wow.
And that was really my first formal course in art in this phase of my life. Okay. So we had our first crit, and he said Jean-Michel Basquiat. Each time that I would show my work, He would constantly cite that name. I kind of pushed it off to the side, never looked it up until we actually went to the museum. Long story short, saw this very large installation piece, 10 by 15 feet large. And I just knew that from that day forward, I was stuck. So I would paint in the closet, paint in the hallway, paint in the laundry room.
Wow.
Everywhere I was painting, constantly consuming and creating. Then shot over to Ghana, West Africa, and Kingston, Jamaica, and Brazil, and have seen some things,
Okay.
And so the further and further I go, the more and more it grows inside.
When you paint, because it seems like once you got a taste of it, it just became an appetite for you, where you said you were painting in the closet and painting in the laundry room. Share with us, as today we're talking about not only pursuing our passions, but connecting to our passions. And there's so many people, Victor, that their passions are laying dormant, their dreams are laying dormant. It's time for them to wake up. So it sounds like you were able to be awakened in that way. What were the feelings? What was happening inside as you were painting that made you want more? What, if you could share or explain what that felt like?
Okay. For the first time, earlier I mentioned hearing sound and seeing color. When I paint, when I create, I don't hear anything. I don't see anything, but I'm totally present in that moment, which I think is essential. Living in the Western world with given so much technology and gizmo, this, that, and the other, we're oftentimes bombarded with a lot of excessive sound. So first, when you can find a place, a space, a something that allows you to just drift away, that's a passion, and follow that. And so when I first picked up the paintbrush, I just knew that just everything just kind of quieted for me, and I was able to just create.
Wow.
Yeah.
It makes, when you're talking, what comes to mind is therapy. It's therapeutic.
Yes.
And it sounds like peace. And it sounds like you feel at home and you feel grounded, and all at the same time of therapeutic and peaceful. It also makes you seem to really feel alive.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to hear you talk about that, because I think those are the sort of feelings we have to connect with. When we are feeling alive and peaceful and whole, what are the things that make us feel that? And it sounds like you have been able to be blessed to recognize that at an early age and cultivate it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about Ghana. Earlier when we were talking, you were telling me about your experience to Ghana. And men dancing and just seeing so many things, and how it inspired your collection. And also would like you to tell us the name of your collection and a little bit about it.
So a quick loop around all of that. While in Ghana, as we were discussing earlier, we went out to a club. Woo! You know, they're odd place. You never know where you'll find your creativity.
Right.
You never know where inspiration will hit.
Yes.
But when it comes, you just allow it to flow.
Yes.
And so we entered this space, and I mean, there was music was going, and the males were dancing.
Right.
You know, unlike in this space, you go out and everybody's kind of just like
Trying to be
posted up on the wall.
Yes.
No, the privilege was taken for movement to happen. And that really inspired me, because it allowed me to check myself and say, wow, so I do have the access to move, to allow rhythm to move in me. So took a brief dance class there. Whenever I could, I would just wiggle any beat that I heard. And I haven't stopped dancing since. I remember when I was a child, I really wanted to be an Avonada dancer. Dad, won't we move to New York? Won't we? But we were in Houston, Texas, and he fed the dream, but I never took the permission to allow myself to move. And so it's allowed me to move into this latest body of work, which is called Face Me, as we briefly discussed earlier, which is essentially about the black male identity vis-a-vis me.
Right.
I am a brown black male. That's how I came into this planet, and I appreciate the God for creating me that
That's
way.
awesome. Amen.
And so through my work, I explore questions that I have towards myself, and I share and pose them with my collective, my fellow brethren.
Right.
So there are issues dealing with tight spaces, and there's issues dealing with premature life, and there's issues dealing with the prison industrial complex.
Wow.
And, self-esteem and health. I'm concerned very much so about the black male being healthy.
Yes.
And art is a way to connect him with his emotions. And before action come emotion. So
Right.
we can kind of tap into that and just be quiet and connect. Then we're good.
I love it. When I first came into the space, I was so drawn to your pieces that we're standing in front of. One of them is a mirrored piece. I just loved it. I just found it to be beautiful. And mirrors have a way of reflecting everything that's going on around us. And sometimes we don't take time to really look and see what's there. So I'm just, drawn to that. And I would love to hear you share about this piece behind us.
Okay. So there are always two currents within my work. There's the personal that some people may never know why I created what I created, except that I wanted to. And then there's also this really deep, philosophical, man. So the personal piece. When I was a child, I was very passive aggressive. Okay. So instead of just, I would kind of internalize or kind of manipulate myself not to really express myself how I felt.
Right.
And that was unhealthy. I'm just diagnosed that was unhealthy. And so what I would do is I would go into the bathroom or any space that had a mirror. And whatever confrontation I didn't have with that thing or that issue at the moment, I would have in front of the mirror. Blah, 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 blah.
You would tell the mirror off, huh?
Tell the mirror off, which essentially was telling me off. Like I was misdirecting my anger and my energy, which we may find that we're frustrated at home or at work, and we're just misfiring everywhere else but where it needs to be channeled.
Wow.
And so once
That's
I was
huge.
able to acknowledge that, I need to move from in front of the mirror and actually confront the world around me. So
That's so deep, and you said it so well that a lot of times we're misdirecting our aggression, our frustration to all of the other areas of the world around us, and sometimes we're frustrated about work, or sometimes we're frustrated because we're not connecting with our passions, or sometimes we're frustrated because someone hurt us or did something to us, and we're never getting it resolved because it's misfired and misdirected. And so I think that that's amazing that you were able to identify that, again, early in age, self-awareness. How did you? What was it? What was the catalyst? What was it that helped you to even recognize that that was what you were doing? And it may not have been one thing.
yeah, it was a series of things, but I remember a good friend of mine, he told me, he was just like, you're very passive aggressive. And I also remember this too. When I would write as a child on the computer, back in the day, way back, the Microsoft Word used to tell me that all the time too. It would say passive voice. Whenever I wrote a sentence and I'm thinking this real deep thought, she would always say passive voice, passive voice. And I'm like, what does that mean? Passive voice
You
machine.
know what? That's so interesting, because I have seen that in spell check before, but you saw it a lot. And you really paid attention to that. Because a lot of people have seen that, and they've had people tell them they're passive aggressive, and they still ignore it. So I think what an amazing thing it is. Well, I would like to actually show the piece, and you have this particular mask here, and is there anything else that you would like to share about this particular piece?
Well, yes, as mentioned, there are two currents. So there's the personal current with confrontation of self, and then there's also this political ideology of Africa, right, and the symbolism behind it. So my father always collected African art, so I've seen it, and I've always been anchored in the idea of my Africanness. But when you look in the mirror, what do you see? I see an African looking at me.
I love it.
The gold embellishment also reminds me of like the Walt Disney mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all.
Right.
We turn to mirrors to tell us who we are.
Wow.
So identity, again, which is...
And when you see this African is what I see for you, what sort of emotions does that bring up for you?
That would be 7 segments. But possibility, creation.
Possibility. Okay.
Because I see this African artifact as a tangible object. So I too am a tangible object occupying space with potential and value. And so I am here.
I'll tell you, when I look at it as an African artifact on the mirror and looking in the mirror and what do I see, and I see an African, I think of a sense of I'm proud. I'm proud. And like you, I grew up, my father collected drums and masks and always, made sure that we understood the heritage we come from, and to be proud of that. And I think no matter what your identity is, because God made us uniquely to be that, we should be proud of it. So I think that that's beautiful. Well, thank you, Victor. And we're going to move and talk about and see some of your other pieces.
Okay.